Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new series. My name is Jamie Taylor, and this is the Log In series, Learning Opportunities and Growth in Your Profession. And if you haven't known me, I am the founder of the Black Golf Directory. I've also hosted for over 5 years now what I call the Black Golf Directory Virtual Career Fair. I've now changed this to a monthly or sometimes weekly, depending on the month, event because I realized that I want to make this convenient for people to come and watch and learn from these different companies. So if you're new to this space, welcome. The mission behind this event, Log In, is to introduce you to golf companies. As you probably heard in my intro video that I sent out to you, I am a veteran in the golf space. I've been in this industry pretty much my whole life since I was 14. And in that time frame of playing golf in high school, then college, and then going into working the golf, I had no clue about the things you could do in the golf industry outside of working at a golf course or being a coach for a college team. And so the reason why I'm putting on this event is because I realized that there's a lot of people like me who just don't know what goes on outside of their neighborhood golf courses and golf spaces. And so this series is introducing you to those global companies that you can actually talk to directly to the people who are hiring and have the power to hire and learn about what they offer and specifically in certain career paths. So today's focus is golf sales and sponsorship because that is a huge part of the golf space. And if that's something that interests you, or maybe you just want to learn more about it, this is the day you're going to learn. So I'm going to introduce you to the guests so that we can get right into it. And while we're doing this, please don't hesitate to put questions in the chat as we're going, even if they don't pertain to what we're talking to in that moment. We can get to them later on, but I definitely want to bring them up at some point in the conversation. So thank you. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on my two guests. So I'm going to bring on Janelle Rayford. Hi, Janelle. How are you? And I'm going to bring on Cheryl Fish. I'm going to let them both introduce you, tell them your title, tell them how long you've been with the company. And of course, this is LPGA, Ladies Professional Golf Association. So they're going to, after they introduce themselves, I'm going to have Janelle talk about what is LPGA. So Janelle, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you so much for having us on today, Jamie. Hello, everybody. My name is Janelle Rayford. I serve as the Senior Director of Recruiting and Analytics at the Ladies Professional Golf Association, the LPGA. I've been with the organization for 1 year, 7 months, and 14 days. And I've been a golfer for 1 year, 7 months, and 14 days. So prior to this dream job that I did not know was my dream, I worked in a completely different industry in aviation, but identifying different skill sets that I have, different alignments with the mission with the LPGA. I couldn't help but say yes when the opportunity presented itself. So I'm so glad to have the opportunity to recruit, hire, and retain the best talent, for the LPGA. We turned 75 this year, so excited to continue to find amazing people to continue the legacy. And I'll pass it on to Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Fish. I am Director of Corporate Partnerships here at the LPGA. Janelle, when you get to be 17 plus years in the organization, I don't have the month, the day, the hour like you do in terms of how many extra, but it has been 17 years at the LPGA as part of our corporate partnership team. So have been in the golf industry actually similar to Jamie my whole life. So this was definitely a career that I based what I wanted to do on one thing that was my passion. And so excited to get to talk to you all today, whether golf was originally your passion or you're finding your way into it.
Awesome. And I love that you guys have like both ends of the spectrum covered for this interview. You got somebody who didn't golf at all working in the industry and someone who, like me, has been a lifer pretty much in the golf space. So for those of you, again, who are watching, just know that this is a space for all. Okay. Janelle, if you could speak to what is the LPGA, where is the headquarters located? Just give some people a little bit of background about the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. The LPGA, we cover all aspects of empowering women and girls on and off the golf course. I've initially thought it's what you see on TV with our professional golfers, but coming to realize that it's more than that. It's really the whole ecosystem of introducing girls at the very young age to golf. We have our amateurs, we have our professionals that are our teaching professionals, and there's over 1,900 members that we serve, and also being able to help our athletes and support our athletes that you do see on TV. So it's just a broad spectrum that it also includes LPGA Asia, that our joint venture with the LET Tour. So we are based in Daytona Beach, Florida. We have a team around 200 individuals that range from sales and partnership like Cheryl. We have finance, we have tournament business affairs, we have marketing, we have comms. So the thing that surprised me the most about the LPGA is any field or industry that you're interested in, we have it. And there's opportunities to come into the LPGA with anything that you're passionate about and continue to grow and have a career.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that point. So Janelle mentioned the areas of LPGA, the foundation, the junior aspect, and then there's the amateur aspect, and then you have the teaching pros, which is what I am currently. I'm an LPGA professional, and then you have the LPGA Tour, which everybody knows because they watch on TV. I can tell you, as a lifer in this golf space, I was not aware of all the branches of the LPGA. I actually worked at LPGA and had the pleasure of working with Cheryl. I missed Janelle, unfortunately. I had left before she came on board. But until I learned of the job at the foundation, I had no idea that there was a whole department just focused on youth golf, amateur golf at the LPGA, that there's a team that focuses just on that. And so that's why I'm doing this again, because I feel like there's so much information that even people in the golf world don't know about these companies. So with that, Cheryl, can you talk about your role in the golf sales sponsorship? Just kind of talk about the background that is needed, even if it's not what you thought you were going to do. Tell them about what skills or what brought you to being in the sales and sponsorship space.
Yeah, so within the sales and sponsorship space of the LPGA, this is very similar to really any sports team or league. So I think that's the key thing, is it translates across anything sports related. If you wanted to go work for the NBA, an NBA team, guess what? They do the same exact thing we do. Really, it's just obviously our focus is golf specifically and the partnerships with the LPGA. So when we talk sales and sponsorship, because we are a league, what I'm doing and what the teammates I work with are doing are finding companies that want to partner with the LPGA as a whole, not just our tournaments. And we have both the LPGA Tour and the Epson Tour, but also just the full kind of all the programs, all of like our LPGA ecosystem is what we call it. And so that, as we've referenced, there's our amateurs division, there's our professionals division, our girls golf. So we're looking for partners, and we have what we call business development. And those are our salespeople. Those are the ones that are either taking incoming calls from companies that are interested in partnering with the LPGA, or they're going outbound. They're looking for companies that are maybe sponsoring men's golf or women's sports, and specifically, and looking at them going, wow, does it make sense for a company, let's say a Coca-Cola, to partner in with the LPGA, because we also see them partnering with women's soccer or the women's NCAA tournament, like looking at those companies and saying, does it make sense for them to partner with us? So that's our sales side of it. And what we do is we try to create programming for their dollars that we then deliver so they can use the halo of the LPGA. So you'll see a lot of times, if you watch any professional sports, you'll see so-and-so is the official X of the NBA, or we have, the official rental car company of the LPGA. And that company, National Rental Car in this case, they get to use our logo in it, and they become a sponsor of the LPGA in that regard. So we have someone who's reaching out, putting together, a sponsorship package. It's going to be X amount of dollars, and here are the things you're going to get for your sponsorship. It then gets turned over to actually my side of our sales and sponsorship team. And we're the ones that basically manage the relationship from there. We get to have, weekly check-ins, sometimes every day on email, where we're talking with that specific company or their agency if they're large enough and actually hire an agency to support the partnership, where then we're making sure everything we said in the contract gets activated, gets done. And so it's, every single day can be unique on what we do from either a sales perspective or a management partnership perspective.
Thanks for that overview about it. I mean, I, again, worked with you for at least 5 years and had no clue what goes into what you do. So that even helped me understand a little bit better. What I think I want an audience to understand, and I also want to know, is for someone like you who started at LPGA 17 years ago, obviously you weren't in the role you're in now. So what did it take to go from, I want to say maybe entry level in the sales and the sponsorship space to now director?
Yeah. So Jamie, that's correct. I started out in an entry level position. In most companies, you see that as a coordinator level. And over time, that was really where you get promoted, you get new job responsibilities. And a lot of that comes with obviously your knowledge of the organization, as well as, good delivery year in and year out, succeeding and excelling in what you're doing, where you take on more responsibilities, and then that allows your opportunities for growth. So if you look at, I've been here 17 years, and within those 17 years, I've had maybe 5 different promotions and job title changes. So it's something that if you work hard and really enjoy what you're doing, you have that growth opportunity. And I saw it first off, and I know, Jamie, you're aware of this. I started on our secondary tour. So if you look at the LPGA right now, we have the LPGA Tour. That's like, if you think of a Major League Baseball analogy, that's like playing, for any of our main major league teams. And then right underneath it, we have what we call the Epson Tour. And that's like AAA baseball. They're professionals just like the LPGA Tour, but they're at that one, layer down. So I was working originally on the Epson Tour side. I was hired as a coordinator. And so that was very much an entry level position. So what I was doing was we had a partner and I was working on very small assets, very small partnerships where it might have only been like a $10,000 sponsor. So, very small, maybe sponsorship in local markets. Now I'm working with partners as I've elevated through and, gained responsibilities that are $1 million partners and have a lot more activation around it, a lot more, things that we have to do, as well as more significant relationships to manage with those funds, because those funds are at a larger scale like that. If you think in how many of those could be, we have 40 partners. It's a lot of money and revenue the LPGA and my team is responsible for. So that's where you can kind of see the growth and know that there's opportunities as you start as a coordinator and move up.
Sounds really good. I mean, to go from 10,000 to $1 million is a big jump. I mean, you just said 10,000 sounds like a lot to me. So there's a lot of skills that you're talking about when you're talking about how you do your role, whether it's management, communications, relationship building. I could go on and on. Again, starting from zero, meaning you came as an entry level, how did you cultivate those skills, or did you have to come in with some of those skills out the gate to be able to do what you do?
I think obviously I was a little unique because of my golf experience. So growing up in golf originally, I had at least the understanding of what golf is and how a sponsorship with any of our partners, whether at a 10,000 level or $1 million level, could look in a golf tournament. Because I think that's the first thing you think about is how do the sponsorships actually, you see them. If someone was to go, okay, we know National now is the car rental partner of the LPGA. How do I see that within the LPGA ecosystem? Well, you may see it as a logo on a signage board at a tournament. So I understand like what those assets were. So I had I would say it was helpful that I had an understanding of golf, but you don't need to, because a logo on a sign at a golf course could be the same thing at an NBA game that you see on the side of the court. So those things can translate. Those are very easy items to understand and know. What helped, I think, in terms of what do you need to have to start your career, you have to be a go-getter. You got to be someone who's proactive, because we have to be, I would say, juggling so many tasks at once, because every partner is different. So you have to be ready to kind of move on the spot. Also someone who's can be multitask, because you have partnerships that are very different, but they're all moving forward across the year, and you got to keep them going. And they could be so very unique and different that you have to be able to say, all right, I can work on this one that has a deadline 3 weeks from now at the same speed I'm working on one that is going to be, I have a deadline within a week, but you have to keep them both moving forward, both projects. So I think it's someone who really kind of knows how to set their schedule, knows how to work toward deadlines. But I think the other thing with sales, because every company is unique, a nice trait to have is someone who likes to think outside the box, someone who's really creative. This is where the field of sales and partnership management, you can have two very different people. Our sales teams are extroverts. They're the people that really love to go out there and throw out crazy ideas or amazing ideas. And I used to say could sell ice to Eskimos. They're those kind of people. They just also exude passion and they talk. So that's a very different skill set to someone who's very tactical focused on the partnership side. So they've gone out and sold an idea, they've sold a sponsorship, and then you turn it over to someone who's maybe very good at kind of setting your plan, setting your what you need to do within the week, the next week, the following. Good communicator via email as well as in person. Like those are two very different skill sets. So that's where I feel that you can have people that, if we've got 40 people on this call right now, all 40 of them could actually be perfect for a role. It's just they may want to go one direction over the other.
Thanks for that clarity. And I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking like the way I know you and your energy. And I feel like if a person's a little bit on the shy side or isn't as comfortable communicating face to face, how would that work? But you kind of answered the question. So thank you for that. I do have a question from a viewer, Sean. Hi, Sean. Thanks for joining. He says, as a developing small apparel business, what suggestions or recommendations would you give them to achieve access to opportunities for some of those events, either through swag bags, dressing players, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, both are readily available. What I think you'll find is for a small apparel company, if you look down at just, a partnership with the whole LPGA is going to be a harder, lift. But actually looking at a specific tournament and being like, this market's good for us. Maybe we're based out of here, and reaching out to that specific tournament market, whether it's an LPGA event or an Upson Tour event, to say, you know what, I want to provide a single item into their swag bag, because our tournaments are always looking for what we call it value in kind, because they understand they have a budget and they may have $10,000 budgeted for apparel, let's just say, to give as gifting. If they have an opportunity to partner with a company that also is opposed to giving cash, wants to give apparel, that's always, something they're open to. So I think you can always find those little potential opportunities market by market. Players is a great one, because a lot of our players don't necessarily have apparel deals. So if you were to think, how am I going to get maybe the best exposure for my brand? It might be actually even just finding one player that is willing to wear the apparel for the year. You might give them 20 to 30 shirts, and, they'll wear them throughout the season, and you can put a logo on it, your own apparel logo, so there's some recognition, and just them being visible. being visible at a golf tournament, on TV. It allows you that opportunity to kind of use them to catapult your brand into a like more awareness. Because then maybe there's another player that after they see it says, oh, you know, I would love to be outfitted by that company as well. And if your apparel is very unique, then it has the ability to catch eyes. I think you've seen that recently with the Melbourne line that some of the LPGA Tour players are wearing. I personally had never heard of it before I started seeing a few of our LPGA Tour professionals wearing it. And they were very smart about it. The company has, you know, standard logo apparel with, you know, classic logo, but then they wrote Melbourne really big and put it on basically the back of the skirt right on the player's butt. And, you know, you couldn't help but not see it. So then there's visibility and interest right there just from their own creative branding around it.
That's an awesome response. And I have seen where and I know Sean personally, so I know his apparel is definitely very unique. He has some really cool patterns. I imagine because LPGA, I know the players are they're contractors. They work for themselves. They don't work for the PGA Tour. So in finding those players, I'm assuming that would be through what? Through social media, or how do you think they would find those players?
Yeah, I mean, social media is always a great one because it does allow them also to see the personality of the player and how active they may be in that space and what their followers are. But I mean, sometimes just the outreach itself where we can at least help and direct them. We get inbound, you know, conversations all the time that it might not be a partnership with the LPGA. And if it is a apparel company that says, I'd love to find a player, we actually turn that over to our player services team. And our player services team is actually the ones that communicate and work with our players. And they would be able to say, oh, okay, you know, thanks for the outreach. You're looking for a player that fits maybe these 3-4 characteristics. And at that point, they could even make some recommendations and then allow the company to work directly with those players.
It's good to know. Very good to know. The other area, and I know you deal with the big leagues because you're with the LPGA Tour side, but I know on the LPGA Amateur side, and even on the girls golf space, there are some clothing companies sometimes that will pay for advertisement to that audience as well. And I think you just have to reach out to their department to get that information as to how to reach out to those audiences, because you know, LPGA amateurs are probably way bigger than the LPGA Tour, so you got a lot more audience to market to as well. Awesome. So thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
You did talk about your typical day, and I appreciate that. Can you speak to any challenges or rewarding experiences in the space? Like, what was it like when you got your biggest contract? What kind of experience? What experience was that like to get your biggest contract whenever that happened?
Yeah, so I would say at least the one that most impactful is when I actually moved from the Epson Tour side of the LPGA. So I was working on the Epson Tour, which I mentioned is our qualifying tour for the LPGA. Deals are a lot smaller. They don't have as many variables from the LPGA side because, like, for example, Epson Tour isn't on TV. So we don't have broadcast elements as part of those specific partnership contracts. When you move to the LPGA side, everything gets a little bigger besides the money. And I think I was in the position, I had received the promotion and like, all right, you're moving from the Epson Tour team specifically to the LPGA. And I was like, okay. And I was replacing someone. So I knew I was going to be getting a few of her accounts. But I didn't expect another person to actually leave the company like 2 weeks into me in this role. And we were just signing on one of our biggest partners. And based off of just where everything was assigned amongst the other part of the team, my boss at the time says, oh, congratulations, you're going to have the Aon partnership. And I'm looking at this and just, you know, eyes wide. We're launching a brand new partner. They're launching simultaneously the same exact thing with the PGA Tour, the men. And I'm sitting there going, this isn't like, what happened to getting your feet wet? What happened to kind of wading in with some smaller partners? But no, I was thrown right into the deep end. And I think that's where I learned all those skills in the Epson tour side, where, you know, I was slowly over the years, because this was like about 10 years into working at the LPGA, all of those really good characteristics that I needed to have to now manage something this big, they were already set. They were part of me. So it wasn't as challenging as I thought it was going to be. Instead, it was my opportunity to, you know, show them they made the right decision, and bringing me over from that team to this one. So I had to learn a lot on the fly, and I had to rely on our amazing teammates in all of these other departments that I hadn't had a chance to work with before or understand what, like, our broadcast team does. Well, I had a crash course in it because I needed to know, because Aon had broadcast assets. And I was, you know, they've now been a partner since 2019. They're still a partner. We have a few more years left before we renew them. And it's been a successful partnership. And it was one of the ones I'm most proud of, because I had to just jump in right away and not be afraid of failure, but to actually go, I know what I'm doing. I have everything. I've been taught it. It's someone who really did a good job on these first 10 years. I'm ready to do it. And all I did was rely on people that knew what they were doing and used them as my resource.
I'm really glad that you said the last thing you said about working with other people and relying on others, because I think there's an assumption, and definitely on my part, that you have to know everything when you come into a role, or at least people expect you to know everything. So you kind of have to fake the funk, but it's always good to have a team of people that you can go to and ask questions and get support. So that's a really good point that you made. So let's talk about opportunities in the space of sales and sponsorship. I don't know if there's currently anything available, but when there are opportunities, what are some things that you look for in a potential candidate? And I'm going to throw this both to you and Janelle. I know Cheryl's probably the second person, like when you go in for the interview. Janelle may be like the initial contact, but then Cheryl is like the final decision maker. So just walk us through what background or what skills do you look for in a potential candidate for this department?
I'll start since the resume initially does go through me. Depending on the level of the role in the sales and partnership team, that's the first thing that I'm looking for. So we start off as a coordinator. That's the, entry level role, maybe out of college, maybe they've had some internships in the sales and partnership team. Somebody that's worked in sports is preferred, but not required. Working in golf is preferred, but not required. But having the passion, for the sport makes a huge difference. So looking at which level that we're looking to bring in, whether a coordinator, manager, senior manager, or director. So I'm looking at the full portfolio of work that this individual has done and the impact that they've had on that team and the impact they've had in the work experience that they did. So if it's an entry level position and they led some projects, what was the result? And how many calls did you have to make? I want to see numbers on the resume. So about the impact and your part of the success that you had in that role. So that's what I'm looking for. A lot of our sales and partnership team is based in Daytona Beach. So I also want to know where do you live and are you willing to relocate? So a resume tip, at the top of your resume, put open to relocation and not open to relocation, and in the state where you reside. So that helps me understand whether or not this is a potential opportunity if relocation is required. So we're also looking for, if you've, like Cheryl, who leads a team, and if we're looking for someone that is going to be a people manager, how many people did you lead and what was your role and how did you get, to that space? So those are the things that I'm looking for on a resume around your career progression. What roles, did you have, and does it relate to the role that we're looking to fill?
All right, Cheryl, I'm going to let you go for it and talk about, once they get to you, what are the things that you're looking for on your team?
Yeah, so I think when we evaluate people for an opportunity, as I talked about a little bit already, there's two very different paths in terms of within a corporate partnership department, whether it's that business development side or the partnership management side. So that I think both of them require you to be a self-starter. You need to be able to, on the business development side, the sales side, it's not going to be easy. It's not like, oh, we're getting so many requests every single day, so we're just fielding them. No, you're going to have to pick up the phone and be a self-starter, meaning going to make all the calls. I'm going to have a contact list, and you don't have to have a Rolodex. If God, I hope people know what a Rolodex is still nowadays. A contact list, and you're not going to necessarily know who to call. It's having that kind of fortuitous to know, all right, I need to make 10 calls in a day. I need to make 20. I need to make 30. And I just need to start looking and finding companies that are sponsoring sports and being okay with blindly calling a company. You get more no's than you get yeses. So that's another like skill trait you got to be able to have is like setbacks are okay. You can kind of power through them. So you want someone to be just really, it's a different mindset because a lot of people don't like no's. They don't like failure. And that sometimes the role feels like that a lot because you get more no's than yeses. So can you kind of take setbacks and then move through them? And so we'll ask a lot of questions about like, what have you done previously on a sales role? How many deals have you closed? Obviously, what are the size of those? Because we're trying to understand, do you have the kind of comprehension to work at maybe in a big scale, such as the LPGA, where you're working with maybe 6 and 7 figure deals, as opposed to like our Epson tour. Like I mentioned, I started out where it was maybe a $10,000 partnership. So I think that's one thing on the sales side. You're really looking for someone who's a go-getter and self-starter and fairly aggressive, as well as an extrovert. I think being able to kind of go out there and talk and lead a conversation, I think is very important. When we move into the activation side, I know I covered a lot of this already. It's that detail-oriented person, you're typing up an email and you're a strong communicator, because sometimes there's a lot of information we need to get done and captured, and you don't want to get lost in a whole bunch of details. So can you be concise? Can you communicate well, whether it's internally or externally? You need to be a teammate. You need to be a team player. You need to be able to be someone that can work on their own and be able to, not have, a lot of guidance and be able to just go and do it. But then at the same time, you also have to be a person that works in a team environment, because you learn from everyone else and you have to work with everyone else to have a successful delivery of partnership. So I think a strong communicator as well as a teammate are always very important. I always say it. One of my strengths is I'm a people person. I like to build relationships. I like to get to know our partners. So I like to do some of that, back end work. So if I have a company that I'm partnering, who are they? What do they do? Understanding them as a company, so that when I'm having conversations, it's not just I'm checking the boxes on their work. I'm also thinking about them and able to say, hey, I saw, recently your stock prices went up. What's going on? What trends are happening? Because then that might tell me they have more money to spend. It might tell me that maybe there's something they're doing as a company that then I can look at and be like, oh, you know what, that might make sense for our partnership. So you have to be very strategic. You kind of look at a very large picture, and sometimes that you can train that in people, but you kind of got to instinctively know it too. So I think it's looking for people that like to get into the details.
Thank you for that very thorough answer. It's like learning a lot here. We got 2 questions. One is from Erica Denise. Hi, Erica Denise. She owns a company called Erica Denise Entertainment. It's a full-scale entertainment and production company that specializes in talent booking, artist management, and providing staging, lighting, and sound. She's looking to expand her client base through contracts and partnerships. She would like to know if you could share some insight on how a company like hers might position itself to secure entertainment or production support contracts with your organization, LPGA, or some similar organization?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is outreach, is reaching out, whether it's, so you mentioned player management. A lot of our players on our Epson tour, because they are coming out of college, or they may be coming from Asia or Europe, where they're just turning professional and they're joining the Epson tour. What oftentimes they don't have representation. They don't even have a lot of sponsorship deals for themselves. As we mentioned, they're independent contractors. So they are trying to find revenue sources outside of what they earn for tournaments. So a lot of them really are kind of an untapped market. So you could often look at within the, let's say you go to the epsontour.com and you look at our standings, you're going to see a lot of players ranked out 1 through, 200 or so. The players on that, the top 15 of them are going to move on to the LPGA next year. Sometimes it's outreach and going, do you have someone that represents you? I am, interested in becoming, more or less like a player manager, where you would help them get deals, you would help them find revenue sources. And obviously any type of manager or agent does get kind of a cut on some of those deals. So that's how you kind of build revenue for yourself. But I mean, they're an untapped market because they are making very little money, as they're in, first job, so to speak, coming out of college. So I think that's easy to say, if that's what you wanted to do, to start and just like someone in a sales role would do in at the LPGA, is just reaching out to them, maybe, going into their DMs, as we call it, and on Instagram, and sending them a note saying, I'm interested in this conversation, would love to talk to you. I would love to represent you as a player. From an event management side, depending on what obviously your expertise is at, I think it's the same thing. You look at, if you're talking golf, you look at our schedule and where we have tournaments, going to those tournament website pages and, doing that contact us button and reaching out and saying, this is, my business and my level of expertise. I would love to know if there's ways I can support you with your, your tournament that's being held in July, et cetera. I mean, sometimes it's just being, assertive on your own and going and putting yourself out there to see what those kind of responses can be.
Thanks, Cheryl. I hope that answers your question, Erica. I have another question. This one's for Janelle. And this is, she says, it's Tiffany Newton. She says, I'm a mid-level career professional with a background in program management and event planning. I have a passion for golf and currently am on the annual planning committee for a golf outing fundraiser.
Awesome.
I'm very interested in career opportunities in the golf space, and she wants to connect with you for possible opportunities. But can you just speak to anything in regards to what she's interested in, Janelle?
Absolutely. We have lots of programming, like when we talked earlier about, the girls golf, our amateurs, our professionals. There's when we have tournaments that are going on, we also have tournaments and events that's going on with those other groups. So definitely there's opportunities, because there's event planning, there's professionals that we have to get in contact with to run different clinics, different tournaments, and different type of support that's needed. So yes, I would love to talk to you more about your experience and how I can share opportunities with you when they do become available. There's some roles that I have that do require, a golf background, and some roles that don't. So if you do have that golf background, it'll be helpful for the roles that do require that background. So it's lots of opportunities in the future, and we don't have anything right now, but that's why we have, calls like this, so we can make connections, since I would love to stay connected with you, Tiffany. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And I believe on the website, Janelle, even if there's nothing available in the space she's looking for, there's a way to submit an application and kind of be on a list prospective list, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. This join our talent community. So if you go to lpga.com/careers, you'll see all the positions that we currently have available. And there's an opportunity to join the talent community where you can talk about your background, experience, upload a resume and a cover letter. So that way, when I do post a position, that's always the first thing that me and my other recruiter does is look through who has already expressed interest in the LPGA. And then if there's someone if I'm looking for a graphic designer, if I see someone that has graphic design experience that's already in the talent community, I'll be reaching out to them saying, hey, we have an opportunity that's available. We see that you expressed interest. Would you be open to a chat?
Awesome. Also, is LinkedIn another option to connect with you, Janelle?
Yes, absolutely. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And another tip that I think is helpful when doing research, connect with the people that are doing the job. So if you're looking to be in sales and partnership, a lot of times I see people connecting with the commissioner, and I get messages from the commissioner saying, hey, I'm interested in the LPGA. But then when I see individuals that are more intentional about finding individuals like Cheryl or her peers, and they look at their career progression, they come to the interview a lot more prepared because our team is happy to talk to anyone that reaches out to them about opportunities to connect from a sales or partnership perspective or opportunities to become employees with the LPGA when that opportunity comes around. So if you're looking to be a program manager for youth golf, can find our girls golf team channel on LinkedIn and find the individuals that are currently doing the job, see what they post and see what they're doing. And that definitely helps to say, oh, I've done this, I can do that. Or I would like to do this. Oh, this skill set is required, to do this job. What kind of certifications is needed if this is the job that I would like to do? So not only connect with the recruiter, but connect with the individuals that are actually doing that role and follow their journeys.
I'm glad you brought that up, Janelle, because that's actually how I got my job at LPGA. Even though I am an LPGA professional, being an LPGA professional doesn't mean you necessarily have the skills to work in corporate. Let me be clear about that. But I reached out to Nancy Henderson, who was over the foundation and LPGA professionals when there was a job opening for an entry-level position. And because she is the decision maker, it was very easy for us to communicate very quickly on, hey, is this something you're really interested in? And then let's set up an interview. And I think that was really helpful because I connected with the decision maker. Not knocking Janelle out of the way, but of course, if you have some rapport with the decision maker, that helps a lot in the process. So just do your research in that regards, whether it's through LinkedIn or through the lpga.com website. You can find the team, the people that may be in the area of interest that you're looking to get into. Again, and even if they don't have a position available, just building that relationship is always good. We have another question from Dr. Natalie Backham. I hope I didn't murder your name. She says, hello, I'm a marketing professor at Hampton University. I would like to know, how do I prepare my students for internship and post-college opportunities? I'm going to put that to you, Janelle.
Hi, thank you for your question. It's having them focus on the skills and what they accomplished in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So if we're looking for marketing students, we are looking for folks around, how are they related to sports and what specifically have they done? What projects have they worked on? When they led certain projects or been in certain organizations that they were able to contribute or lead a certain initiative. For golf specifically, I would encourage your marketing students to watch golf tournaments. If there's a golf tournament in the area, volunteer so they can see all of the things that's involved in golf or whatever industry that they're interested in. So try to find different ways, to connect different opportunities that don't cost any money, at all. And then have them, connect with people like Jamie and the Black Golf Directory. There's so many amazing organizations that the LPGA partners with that can help give these students opportunities, either from an intern perspective, from a co-op perspective, or just visibility to volunteer for different opportunities. And that's definitely going to help, give them, a leg up when it comes to finding that next opportunity. And one thing I've also liked talking to professors around how can we partner together to make sure that the curriculum that you're providing aligns with what corporate America or different organizations need to make sure that your students are prepared for once they leave the whatever institution that they're at. So I would love to stay connected with you.
And Jamie, I'd love to jump in. Being a person who actually went to school for sports marketing, so that is where I majored in. I knew very, very early that I wanted to work in professional sports. And I think one of the key things that I did, we were required to do an internship within, my program, but I didn't do just one. I did 3. I took advantage of my summers. I was the overachiever that was like, how do I get into sports? A lot of time it's networking. How do I ensure I set myself up for when I want to graduate? And my first internship actually led to my second internship because of who I met and them going to another organization. And then the third internship was again in golf, but I'd used my first 2 as a way to kind of show what I was able to accomplish and that I had a skill set already starting to be developed. So I would tell people who want to work in it, try to get as much experience as you can, because, obviously a lot of companies, internships, it's a summer, it's only a few months. You can get so much done and really learn what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at. And then you can kind of help tailor that to now, once you want to go into the job field, what you think you'd be good at. Because you may learn, God, this is something I'm not good at. I'm not good at communication and putting together a press release. And I really thought comms was kind of my thing. They may say, oh no, but I actually like to talk in front of people. That's 2 different things. Writing something and having good English and communication skills could be very different than standing in front of a person with a microphone and leading a press conference. So I think trying to show your students that it's important to, if they have that ability, to try things, do as much as they can.
And one other thing I'll add, and Cheryl, you made me think of something. Keep your mind open, since I see a lot of individuals I talk to, they want the LPGA, PGA, NBA, NFL, the big ones. There's so many roles when it comes to minor league sports as well. There's so many different leagues with NWSL, professional volleyball, field hockey. There's so many roles that are opening around the sports ecosystem that you can get experience from, that will definitely help what Cheryl said. Just put yourself out there, keep an open mind. So when you do apply for the LPGA, we can see, yes, you do have a sports background that's going to translate to the work that we're doing.
Yeah, and along those same lines, Janelle, one thing that I heard Cheryl touch on and I saw firsthand working at LPGA is there were people in my department, the LPGA Foundation, that transferred over to the sales roles later on once they worked in the business and got to know their coworkers and colleagues and kind of saw how things worked. So that's another way of entering into a space, because if you're coming in green or you just don't know a whole lot about the organization and you feel a little intimidated to be doing $1 million deal, then you don't necessarily have to go into that role, especially if there's nothing available at that time. But coming in like the LPGA Foundation side, like I said, you have the LPGA amateurs, you have the girls golf, and they have a whole focus on raising funds just on that side to do sponsorship and marketing there. And it's not as big of money, but it's definitely a space where you can learn, and their team is a little bit smaller. The stakes, I won't say are lower, but they're not as high. So I would say if you're going to start somewhere like that and then move over to the sales team when they have a position available, I've seen that happen for sure.
And one thing that's exciting, that we now have a learning and development director to really focus on upskilling our employees. So if they're on the foundation and want to move over to sales and partnership, we can use LinkedIn learning courses on negotiation. And that way they can learn different skills so they can be ready, to transfer to other departments. So that's definitely something that we're doing, is investing in our employees' learning and growth.
Yeah, and when, Jamie, you think about golf, it's not just the tour, it's our tournaments. As you're aware, a lot of our tournaments are in these summer months. They're in May through August. So, and they always need interns because their tournament is a 1-week event. They plan and lead all the way up into that tournament week. And then they kind of, I wouldn't say they go quiet. They don't stop working, but their event isn't for another year. So they're always looking to bring in interns in a lot of capacities, operational capacities, meaning, they're on site and you may be pounding signs into the ground. So you're learning more of like how to actually put on a tournament. So if you like that side of it, of the operational side of it, being outside, not being in front of a computer all the time, but that will translate then into position potentially either with them full-time afterward or even to the LPGA, because we're going to see experience of, oh, they worked at the 2025 XYZ tournament.
That's a good point. That's actually one of the roles I've once had, and it just reminded me, Cheryl, there was a tournament in my senior PGA event that happened where I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, at a golf course I used to work at. And I remember over the winter, actually, they needed some help. And I did some small stuff, stuffing envelopes, doing things of that nature. But that was my in to learning about that side of the golf business and understanding how they have to prepare for the tournament that's coming. So that's another way to enter into that space. And that's us, it's, I won't say it's an easy way, but it's definitely, they're not going to turn away help. I know that much, whether it's volunteer or paid. So if you are interested in that and if you don't know if this tournament is in your area, you can go to the lpga.com website, look at the tour schedule, and also look at the Epson tour schedules, and you can look and see what's coming up. And like Cheryl said, you probably don't want to go when they're in the midst of doing the tournament because they've already been doing everything and everybody's full steam ahead. But if you see like for 2026 or later in the year that something's coming up, maybe you can reach out and maybe physically go to the facility and say, hey, I'm looking to help out. I want to learn about this. Is there something I can do? So that's a great way of entering the space as well, and stay local.
Yep. Jamie, I know you mentioned we have a professor on the call, and I want to call out something very unique. And this is something I think it's good for you to share with other professors maybe on the call. We did for the past couple of years, but one of our partners is up in the New Jersey area. And we have 2 tournaments in that New Jersey area, our ShopRite event, as well as last week's Mizuho. But they also had a sponsorship with Rutgers University just because they actually are in that market. And what they did was actually reach out to Rutgers University and had students within their sports marketing program work at the ShopRite tournament last year as volunteers. They were the standard bearers for the tournament. So it was actually them recommending and saying, you know what, we sponsor Rutgers Athletics as well. We would love to have it tie into also our partnership with the LPGA. Would we be able to create an opportunity for these students? And we talked to the tournament and was able to confirm them as caddy bearers or sign bearers, like for the event, for the tournament, for all 4 days. So I think they had roughly 10 to 20 of their collegiate students participate as a volunteer for just that specific week and actually get to be part of the tournament. And I mean, that's also a great entry to understand what professional golf is and what all the career opportunities are around it by actually being part of it.
And Cheryl, great point. And that reminded me at the Chevron tournament that we had in Houston a few weeks ago, there was a partnership with Prairie View A&M. And their media team actually had a whole media center, and their partnership has grown, year over year. So giving those media students opportunities to actually work at the tournament. And I connected with all of the students, and they check in with me about once a month, saying, Ms. Janelle, this is what I'm doing. But they were able to speak to real life experience that they had at the tournament.
That's awesome. I love that. So, and also, Dr. Baucom said she'd love to connect with you, Janelle. So, and I will hopefully share your contact with everybody in my follow-up email. So if you're already registered, great. You'll get an email with their contact. If you're not, please register at the golfprolikeme.com/events to get the recording and also the contact for our guest. I'm going to wrap up soon because it's been a great conversation and we've been rolling and great questions. I love the audience engagement. I'm going to leave it to you, Janelle. Do you have any positions you want to promote or internships coming up? Anything that people should know as to how they can get in the door at LPGA?
Right now, we only have 2 internships that are currently posted for FM Global. We currently have candidates that we're currently interviewing, but if there's anyone that you know, give me a call and I still will see and take a look at their resume. But when there is other full-time opportunities that come open later on in the year, definitely sign up for the talent community so you can be notified when those opportunities come available in the areas of your interest.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. And I'm going to let you, if you have any other last things you want to say, we can do that. Otherwise, I want to thank you for your time. Cheryl, you good?
I just want to thank you, Jamie, obviously, for having us on and allowing us the time to speak to all of these attendees and hopefully empower them to see an opportunity in golf.
And I second that, Jamie. Thanks for the opportunity. And ironically, my first job out of college was in sales. I was in sales for 9 years. So making that transition from sales to HR from 3 different industries. And like I said earlier, golf is such a dynamic, growing industry that I had no idea all of the opportunities. So please share opportunities with your network like Jamie so we can continue to educate and expose others to this amazing industry and all it has to offer.
Thanks, Janelle. Thanks, Cheryl. And thank everybody for coming and your great questions. I love the engagement. I hope this was very helpful. Whether you're interested in sales and sponsorship or not, there's obviously a lot you can do in the golf space. And as we continue this series, next week, we're actually going to have American Junior Golf Association, better known as AJGA, talking about tournament operations. So if you have any interest in tournament or events, please tune in. Again, if you're not registered or if you know someone who might be interested, make sure they're registered, and we'll do this all again next week, next Tuesday. Thank you all. Have a good evening or afternoon.